Welcome to Chapter 3. In Chapter 3, we are going to talk about payables, paying our bills for the business. So last chapter we talked about receivables and billing, and this chapter we talk about payables. I'd like to remind you that you will use the exact same file that you were using in Chapter 2 for Chapter 3. The exact same file. Don't go back and start again. Open up the one you've been working in and continue using it. Now, if there were any mistakes in Chapter 2, you will see those in Blackboard, and you will need to make those changes, but in the same file. Do not go back to the old file. Okay, and as you can see, my desktop is up here, and here is my QuickBooks icon, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on that icon and open up QuickBooks. And when I go through and open up my QuickBooks, because I was already using computer last chapter, it's going to show up on my list right here. And I'm going to double click on it, and it's going to open up that computer file. And QuickBooks automatically opens up to the Accountant Center. And if you don't want this to show up, click right here, this box right here, and it'll quit showing up. So then I'm going to hit the and get out of here. And I personally would like my home to be big, so I'm going to make it big. So now when we're talking about bills, we go into this vendor center to enter bills and to pay bills. So one of the first things I'm going to show you is how to enter a bill. Now remember, we're on accrual-based accounting, so the minute we accrue a bill, it's going to show up on our financial statements. So the minute that we owe people money, it shows up on our financial statements. So when we receive a bill, we are going to put it in, and then it'll show up on our financial statements. Even though we're going to pay it later, it doesn't matter. We're on accrual-based accounting. So let's say we got a bill for advertising from Artistic Advertising. Reference number would be like the invoice number 2345. Excuse me, I've got the yawns today. And it's for $1,000. And we have terms of net 30. Terms of net 30, meaning that it is due 30 days from now. And it will automatically populate, and you can change the terms. So for instance, if your next bill is net 15, you can go ahead and change that. And then right here, this is where we tell it that it is an advertising expense. Right here. So let's say that it's not an advertising expense. Let's say it is insurance. Although it'd seem a little strange it would be paying insurance to artistic advertising. It definitely shows that we could just put it someplace else. So these boxes right here are extremely important. Extremely important to make sure this is where it tells QuickBooks where it goes on the financial statements. And if we needed to print, we would go here to print, and the print bill box would pop up, and we would go to PDF and save it. So I'm going to go ahead and save this bill right in here, and I'm going to click Save and New, or Save and Close, and it's going to take me back to my vendor center. And then to pay that bill, I would go right over here, follow the arrows to Pay Bills. And right here is a list of all the bills that are currently in QuickBooks that show that they need to be paid. So I would click right here. That's not the one I entered. I entered this one. And down here you can go back to the bill to view it. We can have discounts or credits, of which we'll cover later on, where you don't do those in this chapter, but please be aware that we could have a discount if we pay it early, or some credits, but we do not worry about that at this point. And then it wants to know what date we're paying, how are we paying it, and where are we paying it from. So for instance, we're going to write a check, and it's going to come out of our checking account. So then I click Pay Select Bills, and a window is going to pop up, and it's going to say either pay more bills or print checks. And in a large majority of these, you're going to have to print the checks. So then this box pops up, and we would hit OK, that we're going to print this check, and then we'd print these to Qt PDF. And much like the same way you can on invoices, you can go over, excuse me, this is the last of the process for printing a check, and I'm going to cancel out of it. Just like invoices, you can go back into a bill and correct the bill. Let's say I accidentally, this was supposed to be $1,500. You can just go right in here and change it right on here, but you have to change it in two places. You have to change it on the amount due, and you have to change it down here. So now I show that I have made a $1,000 payment, but the invoice should have been $1,500. So really pretty easy to go back in and correct mistakes right in QuickBooks. And just like you can add a new customer, you can add a new vendor. So we go up here to Vendor Center. I'll go out one more time. Vendor Center, and then you go up here and New Vendor. And here I can type in One Stop Copying. How about stop, not stock? You'd enter all the information. Just like you do on a customer, you can do payment settings, you can do the tax settings, and you'll learn all that as you walk through the textbook. It'll teach you how to set each one of those up. And now, just like you can give a credit to a customer, you can get a credit from one of your vendors. So here, it's a credit. Let's say Artistic Advertising is going to give us a credit for $100 because they messed up something. And that credit goes back against advertising expense. So our advertising expense account balance is going to go down because we no longer owe them money. And our accounts payable balance is also going to go down. And then let me get back into, I'm in the enter bill screen, and I'm on this main tab, and I want to see a report about how much I owe this vendor. And so I click on reports and I do quick report, and this is going to take me to a screen that shows everything that has happened with this vendor. But you'll notice that that $100 credit I just did is not there. Well, I'll show you why, because I haven't hit Save and New. Now if I'll go back over here to Main and go find that credit, and now go to Reports, and now go to Quick Report, look, now it shows up. I hadn't hit that Save and Close or Save and New, and you'll run into that time and time again. If you don't hit Save and Close or Save and New, it's not going to show up on any of your reports. You've entered the information, but it hasn't been finalized in the system. And one of the things it talks about in this chapter is petty cash. So beginning on page 187, it's going to talk about petty cash. And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys just walk through the instructions step by step in the textbook. They're pretty clear. But one of the other things that they talk about in this chapter is writing a check. And we're going to go over here to the banking center, and you would write a check. So let's say that somebody shows up and you're not going to pay them later, you're going to pay them right this second. Let's say you had a courier and they delivered some goods for you, so you're going to write it right this second. And I'm just going to say California Realtors. I know it's kind of silly, but we paid them $100. And what is it for? Well, it's going to be for outside services. So something, they delivered something to us and we wrote them a check the day that they showed up to deliver it to us. Here we're writing a check. It's going to automatically come out of our checking account. So if I needed to print, I would go up here and print, and then I can hit save and close. But now we're going to go over here to the check register. Remember I said that the check register is a lot like our register that you would have on a normal checking account? Well, here it is. So here, the bill payment check that we made for artistic advertising is there, and you know it came from the bill payment screen because it's right here. And then this is a check, and it says we still haven't printed it because it has to be printed. So let's say this one was a mistake, this $1,000. If I right click on it, I have two. I have an edit bill payment check, or I have a delete bill payment check, or I have a void. So if I want to edit it, I go into edit bill payment check, and I can make some changes here, but not a whole lot. I could add in another vendor, but I can't make a whole lot of changes here. So I'm going to get out of the screen. Or I can opt to delete it, or I can void it. Delete it disappears off my check register completely, and I'll put it back into my, in fact, let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to hit delete bill payment check, and I'm going to hit OK. And now if I were to go into pay bills, it's back there because I deleted it from my check register. So these are all linked together. But if I go back into my check register, it's gone, which I deleted it, so it should be. I completely deleted it. But here, let's say I just want to avoid this check. And I go to avoid check, and now it shows up as void. And I don't want to create any reversing entries, I just want to void the check. And here it'll show up as void. This is actually the way you should do almost everything in QuickBooks, is you should just void the transactions unless it tells you otherwise. This way you know exactly what you've done and what you have deleted versus what you have voided. Voided, this will just stay in your check register just as void. And let's say I want to write another check. I want to write a check, and I want to write it to Matt Williams CPA. He does my taxes. And I wrote him a check for $800. When I went and picked up my taxes, I wrote him a check. So this is, I'm going to do outside services again. And I'm going to hit save and close. And it's going to show up in my check register as $800. So even though all that transaction was not done in my register, it shows up in my register. They're all linked. Let's say I get home and I realize that I actually wrote that check for $900. I can right click, I can go to edit check, it'll take me back here, and I can change this to $900. And when I change it right here, it changes it right here. And save and close. And right now we've been talking about expenses, but at times we write checks to purchase an asset. So we can still purchase assets just like we do when we write a check. So let's say I'm going to go in here and I am going to purchase something from Garcia Garage and Auto Services. I'm going to purchase some sort of part from them for $800. But I want it to be an asset. So I would go up here and I am going to purchase some sort of office equipment from them. They had a used printer that I wanted. So I would go up here and I'm going to put it to the original cost. I purchased an $800 printer, original cost, as a fixed asset. Notice we're using the same right check screen, but we're coding it to an asset, not an expense, original cost. So then here I'm going to put purchased new printer. So this, you can put these to assets or to expenses. Okay, and just like last chapter where we had a lot of the receivables and the sales reports, there's a lot of reports for the vendors and payables. So starting on approximately page 193, it starts talking about all the different types of reports, and I'm going to go ahead and let you work through that on your own. If you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to email me or call me. I'm here to help in any way I can, and good luck with Chapter 3.